Hi there, it's Donovan. This cutscene is great and all, but I wish I was actually playing the game. Welcome back to One Last Game, where one last doesn't actually mean one. And today I would like to discuss the topic of cutscenes and cinematics in video games. Why am I wanting to talk about this? Well, I was just playing through the supposed Game of the Year of 2025 being Expedition 33, and I've been having a great time with it. It is an awesome turn-based style RPG with great real-time elements that really make the game shine and really appeal to my monkey brain that just wants to mash buttons when my, reaction sensory things, neurons fire in my brain and all that. But I want to talk about a certain issue, you could say, and that is cutscenes within video games. Mainly because when I was playing Expedition 33, I was wondering to myself, is this really Game of the Year? Is this Game of the Decade? Does this push gaming forward on another level? And one of those things that I was looking at was how they did cutscenes. I remember when they get to the island at first, where they are greeted by a mysterious older figure that evokes so much mystery, and then what proceeds after it is a lot of gore. Really, really awesome stuff that I was looking at. Truly showed the power scaling between me and this strange entity. But I realized quickly I'm not even playing the game. I feel like it'd be much more cooler and more impactful if I was actually playing the game and if I was instilled that fear when I'm interacting with the game. And that just made me think, what are video games? Video games are the interactive medium. So how do cutscenes and video games mesh together? How well can they achieve both story and gameplay? Sometimes my problem is that these cinematics in video games take away player agency to the point where they just feel like, large movies. I'd rather watch them as movies instead of playing the games. Sometimes I feel like, the highlights of the games isn't actually the part where you play the game. My third favorite game of all time is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. There is a part in the middle of the story, one of the most beautiful things I have ever seen, just in general, in any medium, movies, games, it doesn't matter. But then it was until I realized over those 30 minutes, I believe, of pure bliss and emotion and tears, I was not playing the game. A little bit of movement.
I'm not seeing enough movement!
But not any actual gameplay. Many people consider that to be the peak of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, the peak of the series, the peak of any JRPG. And it isn't attributed to the actual game. The peak moment of the game, people attribute that to a cutscene, something that you barely even interact with. Again, one of my favorite games of all time. Again, one of the most emotional parts of any piece of medium I've ever interacted with. But the problem is, I didn't really interact at all. It isn't really unique to the qualities of what makes a video game a video game. It's really a great movie, but not really a great gameplay aspect, if you can even say that, if you catch my drift. In Final Fantasy VII Remake, at the end, there is an extended cutscene, a battle, a really amazingly choreographed sword fight between Sephiroth and Cloud. It was aura and hype moments galore. It looked amazing, but then you realize you're not playing the game. It's an amazing cutscene. It looks badass as hell. It looks awesome, but you're not playing the video game. It's a game after all, right? I thought this isn't a movie, right? And again, I really love Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth. Really great RPGs. It's just, for Final Fantasy VII Remake, before I even played the game, I actually watched every single cutscene of the game. Every single cutscene. It was like a 9-hour movie. I watched it twice because I loved it that much. But it makes me think, do I actually like the game because of the game? Or the movies, the cutscenes? It is basically a glorified 10-hour movie at that point. Is the game really that good because of the game? or the cutscenes. And again, I really do like the game aspect of Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, but it just makes me think, does it gain extra points for having such amazing cutscenes that I don't really interact with, or does it lose points because of that? Am I really playing the game for the game or the story? And I feel like to make a great game, you have to make a great balancing act between game and story. Something that I don't think did that well on the Smash Brothers games. I kind of was playing Smash Brawl really not for the gameplay, but to see the cutscenes. And honestly, you can just watch those cutscenes on YouTube, which might be why Sakurai removed most of them in Smash Ultimate. And again, the Smash Ultimate cutscenes are kind of underwhelming. I was kind of playing World of Light for those cutscenes, and I was thoroughly disappointed with the reward. Again, Spider-Man 2, great game. I love the combat, but sometimes the story, sometimes the aura and hype moments aren't really attributed to gameplay. I remember when the game was coming out, people were gassing this one fight scene against Sandman. Like, look at this. This is the power of the PlayStation 5. Look at Miles Morales doing this all in real time. But then you realize people are saying in the comments, you're not actually playing the game at that point. It's just a glorified extended cutscene that looks really cool. So, games like Fire Emblem Three Houses, Halo Infinite, the opening cutscene where you lose to the big banished guy. I forget his name. I forget everything in that game. But basically, that opening cutscene, wouldn't it be more powerful if you were Master Chief and you, with your own skill and your own agency, lost to the Banished? Wouldn't that be more impactful and engaging?
Hi there, it's Editor Don here, talking about all the things Donovan forgot to mention. And one of those things is how video games and cutscenes sometimes don't blend well together. Sometimes there is a very clear distinction between game and movie, and it just makes you wonder, what if this was actually just, a full-on game, or, what if this actually was a full-on movie? More on that later, but it's just food for thought. Not saying cutscenes are bad, it's just saying maybe sometimes they can be blended a bit better. The fusion between the two can be a bit more solid to create that more cohesive game experience. It makes you wonder, do you like the parts where you're actually playing or the parts where you're actually watching?
Like some games that really walk that fine line and do it well are some portions of The Last of Us. I remember that moment when Joel is flipped upside down. That could easily just be, just a cinematic, but you actually play that moment through. It's really thrilling and engaging and keeps the player having agency. That stuff is awesome.
Hi there, it's DonovanDud here to talk about the cool things Don forgot to talk about. And again, in The Last of Us Part 1, the moment when you save Ellie, when Joel is holding the surgeon at gunpoint. What's so powerful about that moment is how the game makes you feel exactly what Joel feels. And it's not all displayed in one cutscene, it's all within the moment-to-moment gameplay. Joel didn't save Ellie, the player did. You did. I did. I wanted to pull the trigger. I wanted to save Ellie. And I chose to kill that surgeon and take Ellie away. And granted, I might have pulled that trigger a little too fast, but it just felt super powerful. I was feeling exactly how Joel felt, and that is some powerful fusion between story and gameplay. It is absolutely fantastic.
Or stuff like in Uncharted 4, where these grand cinematic moments are plunged right into the player's hands, into the controller, where you are controlling the moment-to-moment gameplay. It's wicked fun. QuickTime events and cutscenes that, at least they give us something to do in a cutscene, right? So like in games like Stellar Blade, you just have a QuickTime event where all these cool and aura and hype moments happen when Eve is slaying up the Natiba, and it has you just, press triangle or press square. You know, at least it gives you some interaction, some dopamine hit. Some other games like Donkey Kong Bananza, they forego any action in cutscenes in general and just move. You know, the cutscenes are just to talk about exposition and story, and then they just hand the gameplay to the player. They don't even show aura and hype moments. The aura and hype moments are for you to play. The exciting part, the peak of Donkey Kong Bananza is not within the cutscenes, it is within your player actions, the game itself. And that's where I feel, you know, games are at their peak. Spoilers for Astrobot, but at the end when Astrobot quote unquote dies, I thought it was just gonna be, you know, another cutscene where we would see something so emotional. But no, you the player, are constructing Astrobot. You're bringing him back to life. Those moments right there, they surprised me and they felt so impactful because I'm constructing Astrobot. I'm saving him. There's games like Detroit Become Human where it is very, very specific to the medium where, you know, your actions, your player interactions affect the story and take it into multiple different routes. That's something movies can't achieve, and I think that's what's great about video games. It's its own medium and it does things movies cannot. And sometimes I feel like some games would rather be movies or shows themselves. Sometimes it's like, you know, would this game really be better as a movie instead of a game? Just like The Last of Us. The Last of Us, my parents don't even know that The Last of Us is a game. They didn't even know it was a game until I told them. And they just enjoyed The Last of Us in full force because of the show. No gameplay. I like The Last of Us the game because it feels awesome and badass. But some other people may think the show is just a sufficient way to experience that story, or maybe is just a better way to experience that story because you're not going through the monotony of playing, you know, a 40-hour game. You're just, you know, you're being a couch potato and being a lazy fat American fuck. Sometimes games feel like they're afraid of being video games. They feel like they want to be more. They feel like they want to be movies, and you know, I get that. You know, I don't want to be known as a gamer. I'm gonna get stuffed in a locker. The medium of video games is so special, so different compared to anything else. And I feel like, you know, games are kind of afraid to be unapologetically video games. They're trying to be these grand Hollywood cinematic masterpieces. And I feel like sometimes the Game Awards kind of lean into, you know, they want games to be seen as these big Hollywood blockbusters. But, you know, sometimes just gotta accept that a video game is a video game, and I feel like you just gotta embrace that, embrace the medium. And I again, going back to Donkey Kong Bananza, I feel like Donkey Kong Bananza is is the most video game I've ever played, and that is a good thing. It is unapologetically an amazing game, and it is proud to be a video game.
My life is like a video game, trying hard to beat the stakes.
No shade to Expedition 33. I'm really enjoying that game so far. It's really fun. I really love. It's probably my favorite form of turn-based combat. But ask yourself this: as much as I like the game, do you attribute the best moments of Expedition 33 to the game or the cutscenes? Do you attribute the best moments of Final Fantasy VII Remake to the game or the cutscenes? The Last of Us, the game or the cutscenes? Donkey Kong, the game or the cutscenes? Fire Emblem, the game or the cutscenes? Uncharted, the game or the cutscenes? Zelda does, in my opinion, a great job of balancing the act, because part of the fun of the Wild Era Zelda games is that the gameplay is the story. You are experiencing this world, this war-torn world, or this world rebuilding. And, you know, the cutscenes are just memories that are playing back to you. They don't really need to involve any gameplay. But when you are in, you know, the moments of action, you, the player, are experiencing it. You are controlling it. You are feeling it. And Zelda, I feel like, does that really well. You can roast me in the comments if you like. You could shoot me in the head if I'm going crazy. I probably am. But I think it's time to go to the comment corner, a new section where I tackle some of the greatest comments in my comment section. So in my video about how indies rescued Nintendo, Mr. Dean said at 43 seconds, "I hate you, Donovan."
I'm here to repent for my sins for talking about the Wii U and trash talking it for 20 minutes.
That's it for now. But there's always one last game. And call me brain rotted, but I like it when I actually play the video game and I have a tiny brain where I can't focus for more than 3 seconds watching a cutscene. Alright?
My life is like a video game.